Guys, did UFC 200 even happen? Okay, I know at this point UFC 200 happened 9 years ago. Did it actually happen 9 years ago though? We can remember UFC 300. It just happened. Of course, we'll remember that. Cuz it just happened, in the UFC and MMA, fans, memories are pretty shitty, man. We forget that fucking this guy knocked out that guy a year ago. Oh yeah, he's trash now. That's what we'll say. But when you think about UFC 200, for fans that have been fans for the past, let's say, 20 years, it's like, wait, there was a UFC 200, and wait, what the fuck happened? What happened in that shit? Like that's how a lot of longtime fans look back at UFC 200, including myself. I was just, after UFC 300 happened, I was thinking back to UFC 200, and I was thinking, wait, what? That was a monumental card, and I can barely remember what the fuck happened in UFC 200. I had to go and look it up again. All I remembered was there was the yellow octagon, the yellow canvas on the octagon. And dude, I feel like that yellow canvas did something to people's heads. I feel like it was some kind of hypnotic fucking thing. Like the Men in Black, they fucking click that thing and, your memory is erased. I feel like that yellow canvas somehow had that effect on fans, because who else thinks about it and they're like, wait, what the fuck? That felt like a fever dream or some shit. Who else feels like that, bro? Because now let's talk about what happened on UFC 200. I made a poll on YouTube, and I asked, so the poll I asked on YouTube was, the main event for UFC 200 was, and my choices were Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt, Amanda Nunes versus Miesha Tate, Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero, and Renzo Gracie versus Frank Shamrock. What do you guys think the answer is based on those choices? Tick tock tick. It was Amanda Nunes versus Miesha Tate. So you got Miesha Tate and Amanda Nunes at the top of the bill for UFC 200. And guys, Amanda Nunes was an exciting fighter in the women's divisions. She was. But then she went on a string of some bullshit. Amanda Nunes went on a string of some bullshit. And it started before UFC 200. And yet they said, yeah, let's put Miesha Tate and Amanda Nunes at the top of the bill, because it was UFC 200 was originally supposed to be headlined by Jon Jones versus Daniel Cormier. I think it would have been their second fight. But Jon Jones tested positive for some shit. I think that's what happened, and then it got canceled. So then they put Daniel Cormier versus Anderson Silva in place of that fight on the UFC 200 card, bumped Daniel Cormier down 3 fights on the card. And that's another fucking weird thing surrounding the UFC 200 card. You got a yellow canvas. You got it headlined by the WMMA GOAT, who's on a weird fucking boring ass fight streak. And she's facing Miesha Tate, who's kind of on her way out. Thank God she retired now. She looked pretty bad in her last 2 fights, let's be honest now. And now let's talk about some of the other fights that happen on this, because I will bring up these fights to some of the longtime fans here, and you'll be like, wait, what the fuck? That happened on UFC 200 after Jon Jones and DC fell through. It was headlined by Amanda Nunes versus Miesha Tate, like I said. Co-main event. Co-main event was Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt. And, that's the fight that Ariel leaked, and, Dana got pissed at him for that. The co-main event was Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt. And the only reason they weren't main eventing is because nobody in that matchup was holding a belt. And the UFC wanted to, keep some integrity. And I do give them credit for that. But, dude, still, UFC 200, you're going to put Amanda Nunes versus Miesha Tate at the top? And I don't want to. Damn it! Like I like Amanda Nunes and Misha Tate. They're great fighters, and I was excited to see the fight, but I don't think I was that excited to see it. You know, to put it as the main event. I don't know about that. Fight after, or third fight on the main card. Daniel Cormier versus Anderson Silva. Like I said, that was put together at the last second. Anderson Silva stepped up. Anderson Silva's one of the damn goats. Even though he popped, but he has erectile dysfunction. Don't fucking talk shit on him. Next fight, Jose Aldo versus Frankie Edgar. That's a good fight. Jose Aldo beat Frankie Edgar. What the fuck, Next fight, Cain Velasquez versus Travis Brown. And this was Cain Velasquez's second to last fight in the UFC. Cain Velasquez was opening the main card on this. If you ask me, Cain Velasquez might be the GOAT heavyweight. He's not even put in that discussion anymore, but dude, when you watched Cain Velasquez fight in his prime, dude, I was watching him, I was like, holy shit. This guy's fucking amazing. Cain Velasquez might be the GOAT heavyweight, and he was opening up the main card for UFC 200, opening it up. And Travis Brown, he defeated Travis Brown via TKO. Travis Brown was like a hot prospect at the time, and then he quickly fell off and then got married to cringy Ronda Rousey. So let's check out what the prelims were. Juliana Pena versus Kat Zingano, the featured prelim. Juliana Pena defeated Kat Zingano. From what I remember, that might have been a good fight. Then you had Kelvin Gastelum versus Johnny Hendricks. Remember Johnny Hendricks? Boy, fell off quick. He fell off quick. I think he held the belt at welterweight. And then he beat GSP, but he was robbed. Yeah, poor guy. Then you got TJ Dillashaw versus Rafael Assunção. TJ Dillashaw beating him via unanimous decision. Next fight, Sage Northcutt versus Enrique Marin. Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that guy? But dude, at the time, like, Sage Northcutt was a prospect in the UFC. The UFC was pushing him. He was the Ken doll to Paige Van Zant's Barbie doll, They were pushing that motherfucker. It was a big deal that he was on the UFC 200 card, on the prelims no less. So I went through that list of fights, pretty good fights, headlined by Amanda Nunes versus Misha Tate. Yellow canvas. John Jones versus DC bullshit, circulating this whole card, the whole build-up to this card. That fight got dropped. Dude, it's almost like once DC versus John Jones 2 got dropped, it's almost like fans said, welp, fuck this card. Fuck it. Especially when the new main event was announced. And I feel like some people were still excited because Brock Lesnar was coming back, but dude, I didn't give a shit about Brock Lesnar personally. He was like a big guy. I guess I was kind of interested to see what he would do with Mark Hunt. It was ruled a no contest, that fight, because I think Brock Lesnar popped for steroids or something. I forgot about that. It went all 3 rounds, I think. From what I remember, it was a boring fight. So you just had all this shit go wrong, and then you had the card just get assembled in a half-assed, last-minute, shitty way on a yellow canvas, and I think that's why fans just quickly forgot about it. I feel like 6 months went by after the card happened, and fans were just like, wait, there was a UFC 200, right? What the fuck happened? But then when you talk about UFC 300, this past one, now there were some problems putting UFC 300 together too. There were some problems in the build-up to that one. But you had an amazing card come out of it. Most notably, Max Holloway knocking out Justin Gaethje in the last second of the fight. Like, that's something that will make fans remember UFC 300 for years. Guys, I try to keep the topics on this podcast somewhat timeless, topics that can hold up over time, but I want to talk about what just happened this past weekend with MISFITS Boxing. Darren Till and Luke Rockhold main eventing this MISFITS card. Now, MISFITS figured it out at the last second. They figured this shit out at the last second, bro. If you look back at when they started, influencer boxing was on the up and up. They built some stars, Salt Poppy. They had KSI fighting. They fought Logan Paul a few times. This guy is Slim, whatever the fuck his name is, the tall, lanky, weird-looking guy. I don't give a shit about him. But he became a star in the space, kind of. A Nissan Gibb, the guy that Jake Paul made his pro debut against. Who else did they make a star, kind of? I don't know. Who gives a shit? But they had these stars that started out, and they said, okay, yeah, we can run with these guys, and there will be new influencers that'll join, and we can make stars out of them next. Yeah, all influencers are going to want to do this. They're going to want to jump on this shit, and they're going to want to box other influencers. That's going to be fun. It's going to be it's a good idea. Boy, did that shit die out hard, the influencer boxing scene. And you could see it dying out hard. If KSI wasn't main eventing, wasn't at the top of the bill, they had nothing. They had jack shit. They had a main card headlined by a Nissan Gibb versus a guy that plays chess on YouTube, bro. Like, when they had that, I did see clips of, like, when they had, cards that were headlined by guys that not a lot of people knew. I saw clips, and, dude, they were putting it on in a warehouse, bro, with like 50 people watching. And if they had a pay-per-view, what the fuck were they selling the pay-per-view for? If it was over $2, that's some bullshit. No one's going to want to pay over $2 to see a Nissan Gibb fight a guy that plays chess on YouTube. Are you kidding me? So, dude, you just saw the MISFITS brand like getting lower and lower and sadder, dude. This shit really was fucking sad. But, dude, I mean, MISFITS probably has had some kind of contract with DAZN, so they kept putting on events. They kept getting smaller and smaller, but they kept pushing, man. They were like, we got to fulfill this contract. We got to keep doing events. Come on. There has to be a way to fix this. There has to be a way to get this back up. Nobody gives a shit about influencer boxing anymore. What do we do, man? Shit. And then they said, let's make it fun. Dude, they might have been on the verge of bankruptcy, bro. They might have been on the verge of, like, being in deep shit from what I could see. And I mean, dude, I've been around looking at this shit for a while, seeing promotions try to start up and fail right off the bat. PFL's having a hard time now. I mean, dude, you can just tell these things. PFL's having a hard time. GFL. Other promotions just fucking failing right off the bat. MISFITS was on the verge of that. They were on the verge of failing. Then they said, "Yo, let's make this shit fun. Let's go this way with it." They had some stars they built up, some influencer stars they built up, and they said, "Let's take the influencers that are taking this seriously, and let's put them against perhaps some professional boxers, some professional MMA fighters." Dude, it's like a celebrity league mixed with a pro league, man. And dude, I think they have something here, man. Like they are like this last fight, Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold, two pro MMA fighters facing each other in a pro boxing match, headlined by two pro fighters. And I think the rest of the fights on the card were technically all pro boxing matches, but there were some, lower in the card that were just influencers, two influencers that maybe they're trying to build up. And dude, I think they figured it out. I think they got something here. Like at the last minute of at the last second of their promotion, hanging on by a thread, bro. They were about to fucking die, a diabolical death, just like every other promotion. But then they said, let's do this, and I think they got it. Lower in the card, they can build up, new influencers that are interested in entering this space. And as you go up, maybe you get a fight with a pro and an influencer that's newly pro, like you got with Tony Ferguson, pro MMA fighter, versus Salt Poppy, pro boxer, formerly just an influencer. He was on fucking TikTok doing these little bullshot TikTok dances. The Salt fucking meme that he fucking made up. Look him up if you're not familiar with his ass. He's a good boxer. He worked his ass off, and like people like him will keep Misfits alive. If you get influencers that look damn good and are taking it seriously, that's a good look for Misfits. And dude, they're the one promotion I can look at and say, you got something. You really do have something here. Every other promotion, I'm not fucking interested. But Misfits, they can take former UFC stars, former boxing stars, and put them up against an influencer that's taking it seriously if they wanted. This is a league Jake Paul could come back and fight. And if Jake Paul didn't have his own promotion and if he wasn't taking it more seriously than these guys. But Misfits is like Ariel Helwani said it, the fun league now. For UFC fighters that are on their way out or retired, that's a league they can join. Put them up against fucking PewDiePie. Have fucking who just retired? Who's a fighter that just retired? Put Frankie Edgar against PewDiePie. Let me see that shit. And they have these crazy press conferences. Dylan Dennis is signed on now. And Dylan Dennis, in my opinion, is one of the greatest promoters and is also a fighter. Like, he is one of the fighters that is the best at promoting his fucking fights, if not the best. Like I said before in another podcast, he got fighters to watch and tune in and buy the pay-per-view for him versus Logan Paul. At the time, Misfits was like a truly a D-League promotion. Dude, Misfits has a path to victory, in my opinion. What do you guys think? Guys, I want to talk about something now that's been on my damn mind, man. This guy, Neil damn Magny. Neil Magny. How long has that name been lingering around in the welterweight division and in the UFC? Now, nothing against the guy, okay? I think he's a great guy. I think he's a swell guy. But, dude, I'm not going to lie. Like, I've never seen a fight from Neil Magny that has impressed me. And, dude, yeah, I'm not someone that needs to be impressed. Like Neil Magny, who cares if you're not impressing me, right? But I'm just saying, like, what I've been seeing and what I feel like a lot of other MMA fans have been seeing from Neil Magny. Like, this guy is just a staple in the welterweight division, and he somehow finds a way to stay in the top 15. He just finds a way to stick around. If you look at his record, dude, it is like the craziest case, the craziest record of win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Bro takes an L. He's like, shit. Like, he lost to Ian Gary, dude. I'm going to be honest, after that Ian Gary fight, like, Ian Gary just embarrassed him so bad in the press conference and in the fight. And I was just like, dude, I lost a little respect for Neil Magny just because of, like, oh, man, dude, you're going to get embarrassed like that. Like, I don't know if that's fair, but that's just what I was thinking, man. the ruthless like leg kick, calf kick. I think it was calf kicks from Ian Gary to Neil Magny's calf. Like just over and over again, and Neil Magny, you know, kept collapsing, and just Ian Gary just was like toying with him, bro. So like he lost that, and then he comes back with with some like emphatic win, if you want to call it that. But even his emphatic wins, I'm not impressed by. So it's like, is this guy just staying around just to be that guy in the welterweight division? Like, hey man, he's the fucking troll under the damn bridge of the welterweight division, bro. He's like, hey man, you want to get through me, you gotta hit me with a 1, 2, 3. If you want to get under this bridge, bitch. Yeah, motherfucker. And then they fucking beat him. Then he's like, oh, fuck. All right, he got through me. Who's next? And then he beats that guy, makes the other guy turn around. Turn your ass around, motherfucker. You're not coming into the top 15. Dude, and then another thing with Neil Magny, like this guy's just funny at this point. Like he has the record thing. And then, dude, he has pound for pound the worst hairline in the UFC. I gotta say. Dude, you look at this guy's hairline and you're like, what the... Dude, what the fuck? What is this shit? Like, dude, just shave it. Buzz it off. Buzz that shit off, bro. Like, you look at that and you're perplexed. You're like, what the fuck is going on? And it's just funny to me now, and it is admirable that he's still around. He's pretty old now. Yeah, it's just like he's just kind of like a meme now. And dude, his demeanor is kind of like Kermit the Frog's, bro. Like the way he looks and his demeanor, the way he acts, dude, he is very similar to Kermit the Frog, I would argue. Do you guys see what I'm saying? I mean, we'll do a side-by-side here. Like, there's something about him, dude. Like, to me, he seems like Kermit the Frog personified. You know, Kermit the Frog has some lanky limbs. You know, Kermit the Frog is, you know, he's this little fucking frog, and he's like, you know, he keeps to himself. Kermit the Frog, you know, sometimes takes a W and then he, you know, follows that up with an L. Like, you know, he'll fucking take an L by, like, you know, maybe Miss Piggy will go through Kermit's phone and find out he's talking to one of the other female Muppets. You know, he'll take an L and then he'll come back in an emphatic way. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm just making that shit up. But do you guys know what I'm talking about? Neil Magny reminds me of Kermit the Frog. Am I alone on this shit? Last thing I want to talk about on this podcast is there is this MMA podcast that I stumbled upon, and I stumbled upon their Instagram account recently too. And it is, okay, before I continue, they're called The Burn Factory, okay? The Burn Factory. Now, dude, I don't want to hate. I don't want to hate on anybody here. Like, that's not necessarily what I want to do in this podcast. But, dude, there's just some things that I just want to discuss and put out into the world here on some fighters and some people. I want to talk about the Burn Factory here, okay? There are these two kids. I don't know how old they are. They must be like 20. And I see their Instagram account. A lot of followers, but they're paying for ads up the wazoo. Up the wazoo. Where are you getting this money, kids? I don't know these kids' names, dude. But, dude, and then I see on their YouTube channel, they get big names on their podcast. Dude, they just got Alexa Grasso on a podcast. They got Uriah Faber. They got like all these names. Does someone have an answer for who these guys are? And is anybody actually a fan of these guys? Is anybody in the MMA community actually a fan of these guys, the Burn Factory? Dude, they have to have rich parents. They have to have parents that are rich as shit. And they're just sending them money because they said, I don't know if they're brothers or what. They might just be friends, but one of them said to their rich parents, they said, Hey, mommy and daddy, I want to have the world's biggest MMA podcast. Can you please give me money so I can get Alexa Grasso on the podcast and Uriah Faber and other people on here? I want to have the world's biggest MMA. This motherfucker's dad was like, sure, son. Here's $5 million. Go make this the biggest podcast in the world. And these kids are trying, man. You watch these kids, an episode of these kids' podcasts, they try really hard. They try really hard to be, upbeat and peppy. They're like talking to Alexa Grasso. Or they're like, so what was the scariest moment in one of your fights? And then they'll say like, hey, so Alexa, what was the best moment in one of your fights? And then they'll say to like Uriah Faber, they'll say like, hey Uriah, remember when you were with Conor McGregor for the Ultimate Fighter? What was the best moment from that? Like, dude, they're trying, bro. They're trying to have this charisma and shit. But I don't know who these guys are. Does anybody know who these guys are? I would love for someone to explain to me what is going on here. And I know damn well the money that their parents gave them is going to the fighters that they get on their show. There is no way these fighters are just coming on for free. There's no way. And I'm just saying what is like obviously probably facts. Like there is no way Alexa Grasso, Uriah Faber, there's other big names that were on there. I can't remember right now, but there's no way they're just jumping on these kids' podcasts for an hour or whatever they're on there for. They have to be getting some kind of like, dude, what, like 25,000 or something to get on something like that. Like, come on. Anyway, I did post a short, and I was in that YouTube short, I was talking about what I think makes Jon Jones so good, what I think made him so good, and I think he was just ruthless and showed no mercy where a lot of fighters would have shown mercy in fights, and he has a screw loose in his head, and I think that's really what made him so good. So let me read some of the comments under that YouTube short because, it was pretty polarizing. JL Sanchez 818 says he showed no mercy to the pregnant lady for sure. Yeah, dude. I mean, dude, Jon Jones just has something in his head where he just, I don't know if he must not have a lot of empathy, but at the same time, I'm not one to like make assumptions on Jon Jones. All I know is in his fights, it was clear to me that he just doesn't care if he really damages someone in a fight. If he really, I mean, dude, his oblique kicks, hyperextending legs, crazy elbow, like, dude, he just doesn't care if he seriously damages someone and gives them, career-ending injuries. That, that was clear to me. Dakota 6877 says, can't call him a shitty human being, bud. We all humans, guys. Guy's a natural-born killer, cowboy. Nothing wrong with that. He's a natural-born killer, cowboy. Nothing wrong with that. So he's saying that I can't call him a shitty human because we're all humans. I mean, I can call him a shitty human being. I mean, it seems like that. And, dude, I didn't do any of the shit he's done in his life. He does have money. But that might be, a difference, a big difference between him and me. But, dude, I've never been in a relationship and beat my significant other. I don't have any kids either, but, if I did have kids, they wouldn't see me beating my significant other and they wouldn't get scared. I've never been in a hit-and-run accident with a pregnant woman and then fled the scene. You don't really need money for that to happen, I don't think. So, like, dude, if I... Yeah, whatever, I'm going to call him a shitty human being. I mean, it just seems like he is. And then go back and watch my podcast I made on him, episode 9. Go back and watch that if you want to hear my full thoughts on Jon Jones. The Tyrant King 2 says, failed drug test after failed drug test, not the undeniable GOAT. In the video, I said Jon Jones is the undeniable GOAT. And see, dude, I look at steroids and I say, okay, yes, I don't know what the fuck taking steroids feels like. I don't know what that does to you. But I look at it and I say, is it really going to help you that much when you're locked in the cage with another man that also wants to kill your ass? Like, when you're locked in there with a man that you're going to fight, will the steroids you took leading up to this moment, are they going to make a big difference in the cage? I don't think so, but then again, I don't know. But just based on what I am thinking, like, dude, I think Jon Jones would have done what he did in his career without the steroids. I feel like that's the case. Maybe not, but I feel like that's the case. I mean, like I said, he has a screw loose. He obviously has skills, regardless of steroids. He has skills, like crazy skills. That's why I say, dude, I deadass was siding with Anderson Silva being the GOAT for a long time. Then Jon Jones won the heavyweight belt. And then that's when I said, okay, Jon Jones is the undeniable GOAT. And that's just my opinion. And I think I'm going to leave the comment reading there. Leave a comment on this one if you want me to read it in the next one. You know, this comment reading section is a new thing. You know, we're obviously not huge yet, but dude, I really like doing this shit. And I get good YouTube shorts out of these things. I like this shit. I like you know, getting conversations going on things in the MMA space and having, you know, a community of people that watch and listen to my shit. I mean, it's cool, man. And I like making video content. So if you listen this far, leave a like, subscribe if you're not, ding that notification bell, and also tell me who your favorite, damn, oh shit. If you listen this far, tell me who your favorite Pakistani is. I don't fucking know. Damn.